Good evening, friends. How's everyone doing? Quite heavy topics the past 2 days. That is why I've chosen some lighter topics for you for today's session. And we are going to enjoy a lot in today's session. We're going to find audit such an interesting subject with today's topics. So just one heavy topic left that we'll be doing tomorrow. Today it will be just enjoying what is audit. How do we do audit practically? So let me see how many people are present. At least those who are the regular people who converse over there in the query session, communicate over there, please. Let me get a glimpse of the same. How many are here? How many have reached? Okay. Yes, we'll be completing with this chapter tomorrow's will be, and either today, tonight, or by tomorrow noon, I'll be uploading all the notes. The whole chapter I'll be uploading for you people. Okay, so we concluded with the topic of government audit in the last session, and there were two specific doubts, one related to the previous session. I think Rohan asked me that when I told you I was just going through your queries, and there was this question that if a person has DPIN, does he need or she need to apply for DIN? No. If you have a DIN, there is no need to apply for DPIN if you happen to be a designated partner in an LLP. Suppose you have never been a director in a company and your first relationship with the MCA was that of designated partner and you had applied for DPIN. Now you become a director in a company simultaneously or afterwards. Then if you have applied for DPIN, you are having a DPIN, there is no need to apply for DIN. Either of them works on the MCA website. Either DPIN or DIN, whatsoever you have, no need to apply for the other one. And then, the questions asked from this chapter are really straightforward. I've prepared them. I'll be uploading them with the notes. The previous chapters which we have been doing, they were like questions which were twisted, case studies and everything. They come in directly in direct manners. So we did practice questions in the previous chapters. The questions from this chapter, there is nothing, no twist kind of stuff involved in the questions from this chapter. This is basically a practical oriented chapter. Okay, so I have prepared some questions. I will made a questionnaire and I'll be sharing them with you along with the notes. And we'll be having a glimpse of those questions in the last session, that is tomorrow. So before we move ahead with today's topic, the second doubt which should be raised at the end of the last class was a point which I mistakenly told you yesterday. So when we are talking about section 143.5, 143.6, and 143.7. So Surbi, that is 143.7 only, which you asked me yesterday. That might have been a printing error. That is 143.7 only. 143.5 is statutory audit. 143.6 is supplementary audit. And 143.7 is test audit. Okay, fine. And by mistake, I told you that these are the sections of this act, Comptroller and Auditor General duties. However, it was section 19A which was being mentioned over here of relating to this act. These are the sections of Companies Act only. 143 subsection 5, 143 subsection 7, 143 subsection 6. Subsection 5, subsection 6, subsection 7, these are the section of Companies Act only. Companies Act 2013 relating to government audit. Please be informed, I stand corrected, that these are not the sections of this act, the Comptroller and Auditor General's duties, powers and conditions of service act. These are the sections of the Companies Act 2013. Okay, right? And the test audit part, which Surbhi asked me, I hope Surbhi that is clear now. So we can move ahead with our next topic, that is the topic of NGOs, non-governmental organizations. So you all must have heard about NGOs working for social welfare in and around you, in your city or area around you. There are many which we call them as Samaj Sevi Sansthaएं, the organizations which work for the welfare. Yes, Pooja, the same section. I suppose I was telling you about the sections of the Comptroller and Auditor General of India Act and simultaneously Companies Act. So mistakenly, I told you that these are the sections of the CAG Act, but they are the sections of the Companies Act only, and you have covered them in law as well, and the government, the company audit part. So NGOs, you have heard about organizations, and what's the best example? Then we heard about and we have read about a lot of NGOs working during the COVID era, during that COVID time, not era actually, that time of I would say pandemic 2020, 2021, many organizations working for the welfare of the people, their traveling arrangements, food, medicines, oxygen. And you got to know about a lot of NGOs. Actually, the people who did not know about what are NGOs, what do, they got to know about it. The feeling, the humanitarian concept of NGOs. So yes, NGOs also require audit, but do they require audit as per any act, or is it voluntary? This is what, if you are going to audit the accounts of an NGO, what should be your planning? What steps would you follow? That is what we are going to cover in this particular topic, NGO. Pooja, see, NGO can be registered. Just wait for point number 3, which I'm going to cover. You can see on your screen. Point number 3 is there. We'll discuss. You'll get your doubt cleared in when we discuss point number 3. Okay, Pooja. So, what are NGOs? The first part is definition. What are NGOs? NGOs can be defined as non-profit making organizations. They are sometimes called as NPOs as well, NGOs as well. Basically, the work of the government is the welfare of the people. When we audit the accounts of any governmental organization, the main objective is public money should not be misused. Government organizations are working properly. There is operational efficiency. The points we covered, performance, propriety, sanctions, grants, everything is in a proper and manner and authorization. In the case of NGOs, right, they are called non-governmental organizations because they don't work with the motive of profit. They work with the motive of social welfare. They work on the concept of humanitarian needs, be it human, be it animals. We have different kinds of organizations, NGOs, working in different aspects for different aspects of the society. So they are non-profit making organizations which which raise funds from members. Who are the members? The members of that NGO body. The members are the persons who belong to the body of the NGO, whatever be the constitution of NGO. We'll discuss that in point number 3. Donors who donate to those NGOs. People have been making donation to various NGOs during the past 2 to 3 years. Or contributors contribute in any manner, be it money or in kind, apart from receiving donation of time, energy, and skills. So it is not only the money which is going to complete the task. We need people who can devote their time, who can use their energy and their skills for the welfare of the society. So NGOs are non-profit making organizations which raise funds from members, donors, or contributors apart from receiving donation of time, energy, and skills. For what purpose? For achieving their social objectives. What are the social objectives? Imparting education of the poor, or awareness, generating awareness among the public, providing medical facilities. Medical facilities example could be medicines at subsidized rates or the provision of ambulance service. In India, almost, I would say, what I have seen is whenever there is a need for any ambulance, right? So I've seen many NGOs who provide this service in times of need, ambulance services. Many NGOs are working in this field only, where they provide ambulance service as and when required. You'll find a lot of NGOs, a host of NGOs. Economic assistance to the downtrodden, poor people. And at the time of managing disasters, if you remember the time Chennai floods, tsunamis, Odisha cyclones, Bengal cyclones. So NGOs are the people, and this pandemic, NGOs are the first people who step onto the field to provide relief, to provide help. And emergent situations. Emergent means situations which pose emergency, require urgent attention. Okay. So what is included in this concept of NGOs? Religious organizations, voluntary health and welfare agencies, charitable organization, hospitals, old age homes, research foundations, etc. Now coming to legal status, which you guys have been asking me. NGOs are generally incorporated as societies under the Societies Registration Act, or as a trust under the Indian Trust Act 1882 in India. Okay. So either as a trust or as a society, where they have the capital is in the form of corpus, where members contribute, donors contribute, proper balance sheet is made, income and expenditure account is made. You people have done NPO accounting in accounts. However, no act warrants a mandatory registration under them for an NGO. So NGO can work, the people of a colony or of a society, they can form a group and an organization and can work for the well-being of the people in and around their area. So there is no mandatory registration required for an NGO. It is completely voluntary. if they want to register them as a society under the Societies Act or as a trust under the Indian Trust Act. Further, but if it is created as a trust, if it is created as a trust and trust relates to immovable property worth more than rupees 100. See, the act is 1882, 140 years back, 140 years ago. So what would have been the value of rupee 100 at that time? And it hasn't been changed since, because it says a trust which has immovable property worth more than rupees 100, then the provisions of Registration Act of 1908, even before independence, read with Transfer of Property Act. So these two acts come into force, must be complied with, and then the registration of the trust becomes mandatory. So people, this is of no use as of day, because when an NGO is registered as a trust, they actually go for registration, because registration comes with a host of benefits. For example, in some states, such as the states of Maharashtra and Gujarat, where public trust acts have been passed, such as the Bombay Public Trust Act, all charitable trusts have to be registered under these specific public trust acts. So there are some exceptions. For example, Maharashtra and Gujarat, we have this Public Trust Act, where if an NGO is registered as an NGO, has constituted itself as a trust, then it has to register itself under the Bombay Public Trust Act 1950. So that is what the legal status is. Registration under the Income Tax Act and Foreign Contribution Regulation Act would also be invoked. Invoked means asked for in many cases, would be required in many cases. Definitely, they need to file their returns if they want. If they are have taken, for example, they have taken registration as a trust, they are required and they are enjoying the benefits of a trust, they have to file their returns under specified conditions. And if they are receiving donations from outside India or in the form of foreign exchange, registration under FCRA would also be required. They might be receiving donations from outside India. So then for that money to be received, they require registration under FCRA, Foreign Contribution Regulation Act as well. So it varies from case to case, specific cases, but yes, they might require registration under different laws as well. Okay. Then legal status 3, NGOs can also be incorporated as a company under Section 8 of the Companies Act 2013. Section 8 companies. So if you're not registering them as forming them as society, as trust, they can also be incorporated as a company. You can get Section 8 company incorporated. Section 8 companies were companies working for the social welfare. Their objectives were social. NGOs registered under the Companies Act 2013 must maintain their books of account under the accrual basis as required by Section 128 of the said Act. You know, you have done accounting of NPOs in your +1, +2 or graduation or in your CA foundation. If you remember, trusts maintain their cash and receipts and payments account on cash basis. Usually, the NGOs, the NPOs, they actually keep their accounts on cash basis. You would get to, in the question, you will get the receipts and payments account. You will prepare income and expenditure from that account and then their balance sheet. Is incorporated as a company under Section 8 of the Companies Act. It is mandatory for them to maintain their books of account on accrual basis, because Now they fall under the Companies Act, and Section 128 of the Companies Act requires them to do so. If they don't maintain it on accrual basis, or if they don't get it converted onto accrual basis, it is a non-compliance of the provisions of Companies Act. So the NGOs which are not registered under the Companies Act, they are allowed to maintain on their wish. Either they can maintain their books on accrual basis or on cash basis as they want. But if they are registered as Section 8 company, they have to maintain their books on accrual basis. Okay. So, Pooja madam, clear? I hope. Okay. Right. Pooja, Ria, you asked about Section 8 companies. Then what are the sources of funds for the NGOs? The main sources of funds for the NGOs includes grants and donations, grants received from governmental authorities, donations which we receive from people around you, fundraising programs. So if you remember some, these cultural programs or any other entertainment programs which are organized for the public to raise funds for any NGO, Nukkad Nataks and all. We've seen the working of NGOs. So in their pamphlets or flyers, they advertise for the sponsors, or they charge fees from the members. For a certain fee could be the subscription, the annual fee of the NGO. You might have heard about the Rotary clubs, Lion clubs, any other fees. Subscriptions is the annual subscription to the magazine, or they have an annual subscription and then a surplus fee. Gifts, if they are publishing any book or magazine, that anything which can form a part of their receipts. So the main part is the grants and donations. So with respect to grants and donations, you must understand 2 points. Corpus donation. What is corpus? We have read about capital in the case of a sole proprietor, partnership, right? Share capital in the case of a company. So the more or less in a layman language, corpus is almost like the capital of the NGO. Corpus is like the capital of the NGO. That capital includes contribution by the members equity in the NGO. That is basically the corpus. Any surplus from the welfare activities forms a part of the corpus. Any specific donations form a part of the corpus. So donations and grants received in the nature of promoters' contribution are in the nature of capital receipts and shown as liabilities in the balance sheet of NGO. So donations and grants received in the nature of promoters contribute, like the promoters contribute. People who are going to start the NGO, they start with some amount, they donate some amount to the NGO. That forms a part of the corpus, the promoter's contribution. They may either be in the form of corpus contribution to form the capital of NGO, or contribution towards revolving fund. So what is a revolving fund? A revolving fund is a fund which is maintained by NGOs, right? These funds are kept on revolving basis. One NGO gives to another NGO gives to third, and charging interest from each other. That if they have any surplus funds, they help in the working of other NGOs, and they keep on sharing their funds with each other. That is the revolving fund. We'll study about it later on. A contribution made towards the capital, any contribution which is made with a specific direction, that a contribution made towards the capital or the corpus of an NGO is known as corpus contribution. donors, while donating money, they are required to specify whether donation or grants given by him or her shall form part of the corpus or general working. So while donating money, the donor has to be clear. They have to donate money with clear instructions that my money is to be used for the working of the NGO, or it should form part of the corpus, the capital of NGO. That is my interest in the NGO. So that is called as corpus contribution. Now comes voluntary contribution. What do we call in Hindi? I would say voluntary contribution. Voluntary contribution is covered section 11(1)(d), section 11, subsection 1, clause G of the Income Tax Act states that income in the form of voluntary contributions. People are donating money out of their own will, made with the specific direction that they shall form part of the corpus of the trust or institution, shall not be included in the computation of total income. So this is not a general donation. When a person is giving donation, either voluntary or as a subscription, or as he is a promoter to the NGO, and with the direction that it should form a part of the corpus, we want to make the corpus, the foundation, the capital of the NGO strong. So these funds can be utilized later on when required, not right away for general working of the organization. So they shall form a part of the corpus of the trust or the institution, and since it is a specific donation, so while computing their income under income tax, the income of the NGO, such contributions don't form a part of their income. Whatever they get, income is what we get as receipt. We apply various conditions on that receipt to determine whether it is an income or not. So this is kind of a capital receipt. When any receipt for the organization, for the NGO becomes a part of the corpus, it is like a capital receipt and it doesn't form a part of the income of that NGO. Now let's come to revolving fund. The objective of a contribution or grant towards a revolving fund is to rotate the amount by giving temporary loans from the fund to other NGO or beneficiaries for their projects, and then recover the loan so as to give temporary loans again, and so on. So the trust, the NGO, the NPO maintains a revolving fund. Out of that fund, money is lent to another NGO on temporary basis to carry out their welfare works. And when that money is received, again it is credited to a revolving fund, and further, as and when how much it is recovered step by step or in installments, it is made available for giving it to another NGO. So the NGO maintain funds with them to revolve those funds among each other, among various other NGOs. This is known as revolving fund. But if you are lending fund to other NGOs, like temporary loans, what happens to the element of interest? However, any interest earned from the beneficiary is that NGO on such temporary loans from revolving fund could either be added back to the fund, so increase the amount of the fund by that interest value. Revolving fund, suppose the revolving fund was 1 lakh rupees and you earned by lending it to another NPO for 10 days, you earned interest of 10,000. 10,000 would be much, huh? 1,000, okay. So now the amount is, you receive back the amount 1 lakh, So now the amount in the revolving fund is 1,01,000. That is one option. Or you can credit the amount of interest to the income and expenditure account depending upon restrictions laid by the authority providing the contribution for the revolving fund or by the rules and regulations of the NGO. If someone has specifically provided no, Ria, voluntary contribution can be for specific general purpose as well. It is on the part of the donor. He has to state that for what purpose he is donating to the NGO. If there is any specific purpose for any capital purpose or towards the corpus, he'll state it. Otherwise, he'll say use it as you want. So revolving funds interest would be added back to the revolving fund, or it can be credited to the income and expenditure account as your income, as per the instructions of the person or the organization who has lent their funds to NGO to be maintained as a revolving fund, or as per the rules established by the NGO. Now comes donation for specific purpose. I have given donation for construction of a science laboratory in the school. I've given donation for the construction of library room in the school. When donation and grants are received for acquisition of specific fixed assets and an NGO accepting them, NGO accepts that particular grant for that particular work only, this is known as donations for specific purpose. So donations and grants received for acquisition of specific fixed assets are those grants where primary condition of the grant, if I am lending you, I am giving you 10 lakh rupees in the form of donation to ABC NGO, I have put forward a condition that this particular grant be used only for the construction of library or science laboratory. That is donation for specific purpose. Contributions in kind. What are the contributions in kind received by NGOs? Land donated by someone, land in their name, buildings, vehicles, office equipment, the items of daily use, food, books, building materials, bed, raw material for training purpose, anything donated in kind to an NGO as per the working of the NGO, whatever is required of the NGO. For example, an NGO which is working for the upliftment of ladies in a remote area by generating stitching income, then they might provide the stitching machines. If you remember that movie Sui Dhaga, if anybody has seen that movie, you could see when the lead actress goes for the exam or that stitching training purposes, stitching machines are provided to them free of cost by that particular governmental organization or any other NGO. Fine. Pooja, everybody requires money. The other NGO might be in the need of money. If they are not having that much of donations or money in the corpus, or it is a new NGO, or they have their money stuck in some capital investment. So everybody requires money, and it is like a temporary loan for some days or few months. It is not a permanent loan. They don't want to get a loan sanction from a bank. So the basis of an agreement, they take the money from another NGO. Easy availability of money. So now these were the sources of the funds. How are these funds used? So the areas of application of the funds of NGO: establishment cost of the NGO, to run, office and administrative expenses, maintenance expenses of the NGO, if you are maintaining a building or an office of the NGO, if you are organizing programs and project expenses of the NGO, for example, the Lions Club, the Rotaries, UNICEF. You can see some of the NGOs over here. CRY, Child Rights and You, UNICEF, Concern India Foundation, Vidya. You see those advertisements on television? You buy one product and 1 rupee from this would be contributed towards the study of these children, towards the welfare, towards the health, providing health amenities to these children, provide food, towards providing food to these children or these people. So how does that 1 rupee reach that beneficiary? Through NGOs. And further, NGOs can also do charity or make donations and contributions to other NGOs or directly to the beneficiaries. So these are the areas of application of funds of an NGO. सुई धागा मूवी सबको याद है, सबके कमेंट्स आ गए. Everybody remembers that movie. Okay, chaliye. So yes, so that was something which was about NGOs. And now audit of the NGO. So yes, the auditors of an NGO registered under the Societies Registration Act or the Indian Trust Act are normally appointed by the management of the society or the trust. So we remember they get themselves registered as societies or trusts, so the management appoints the auditor. The auditors of NGO registered under Section 8 of the Companies Act. Section 8 companies are appointed by the members of the company. Some of the statutes such as, okay, please bear with me for this fee. Some of the statutes such as the Companies Act 2013, the FCRA Act, the Income Tax Act require the accounts of NGO to be audited and submitted to the prescribed authorities, whatever authorities fall under their department. And failure to do so could lead to forfeiture. Forfeiture means cancellation of certain exemption and benefits given to them. For example, if you have read about charitable organizations in your income tax, chapter 3, exempt incomes from module 1, so you will get to know that charitable organization trusts, they have to take registration with the income tax. They are required to file their return of income, and they have to make sure that whatever receipts they receive in any financial year, at least 85% of them is used for the objects of the trust, charitable institution, NGO. Then they are not required to pay any tax on the surplus they might be having in their books. Donations, grants, other income minus expenses. So under some laws, the NGOs might require audit. Okay, audit might be required. If you don't get your books audited, for example, under the Income Tax Act as per the conditions, that exemption given to you may be withdrawn and you might have to pay tax on your surplus. Further, different statutes have different audit reports. Different statutes have different audit reports. For example, the FCRA report as per the FCRA. It has prescribed format and has to be furnished to the Ministry of Home Affairs within 60 days from the close of the financial year. Within 60 days from the close of the financial year, 60 days end on May 30. So a report under audit report, you have to get your accounts audited under FCRA. That audit report, the audit has to be conducted within 60 days and audit report has to be furnished to the Ministry of Home Affairs by May 30 each year. If you are required to get your accounts audited under FCRA. This is an example. Audit planning by the auditor. So quite easy. So what is required? Knowledge of the NGO's work, what is its mission and vision, areas of operations and environment in which it operates, updating knowledge of relevant statutes, especially with regard to what are the amendments that have been recently passed in the parliament, circulars, judicial decisions of various acts applicable to your NGO, reviewing the legal form of the organization. It is a Section 8 company, society, trust, and the MOA, AOA rules and regulations of the society or trust or the company. You have to give it a read. Reviewing the NGO's organization's chart. Is there a board? What are the posts? Who are the members? If any of you around you and your relatives, siblings, or friends is a member of any of the NGOs like the Rotaries, the Lions Club, just talk to them about it. And they'll tell you what are the posts, who are the persons responsible, who is the secretary, who is the treasurer, is there a chairman or the president. So as an auditor, I should be knowing about it. Indian Ministry of Home Affairs via, because the NGO would be getting money donated in the form of foreign currency, and whenever foreign funds are received in India, FEMA, FCRA, these get into action, and Indian Ministry of Home Affairs. We as India, Indian Ministry is concerned for what purpose is this amount being received and what would be the end use of this amount. This should not be black money. It should not be getting used for some financial terrorism or terrorism. So that is the work of Ministry of Home Affairs. Examination of minutes of the board meeting, governing body, what decisions were taken, what is the impact of those decisions. Their accounting system we studied, internal controls, internal checks of the NGO. Setting of materiality levels, we discussed what is materiality, performance materiality in chapter 2. Nature, timing of reports and other communications. Do you need to involve an expert in the audit and NGO? And you have to review the previous year's audit report as well. So you get the financial statements, you reach the NGO, what should be your audit program? Let us start with Audit Program 1 for the balance sheet items. In balance sheet items, we have first taken liability side. So on the liability side, the first thing we get is the corpus fund. The contributions, grants received towards corpus be vouched with special reference to letters from the donor. A, I am the donor A. I gave my donation, gave my check, and with a letter to the NGO that my donation should form a part of the corpus. As an auditor, I have to check it, whatever amount was received by the NGO from a particular person. Is there any letter received, a letter of direction received with that particular donation? And that donation has been applied as per the letter of the donor. And it should form part of the corpus or not. Then we have reserves. The NGOs also maintain reserves. Vouch transfers from projects, programs with donors' letters and board resolutions. Also check transfer value of gross value of assets sold from capital reserve to general reserve and adjustments. Any adjustments, very simple accounting concepts. Any assets sold, capital reserves, what were the adjustments made, and how has the amounts been transferred to the reserve. Quite simple accounting concept. Earmarked funds. Some funds have been earmarked especially for certain purpose. You should check the donor's letter, the resolution of the board, and such earmarked funds are being properly maintained and the amount has been invested in some schemes or not. Like you have read about the debenture redemption reserves and all sinking fund reserves, sinking fund investment. In the same way, some funds are earmarked, kept separately, and the amount provided for in them is invested separately. So how were the projects organized? How were they worked upon? What was the expenditure? How was the amount dispersed? What were the agreements with the donors for any particular project? For example, it was a blood donation project. Someone donated 10,000 rupees for refreshment. So whether the whole 10,000 money was spent or some money was left, where has it been transferred? Whether the end use of the money given for refreshment was used in refreshment only and not somewhere else. So if the NGO has given any loans, those loan agreements and should be read to check for and to audit the loans. Fixed assets, check their physical presence along with the compare them with the books, amount recorded in the books. If any fixed asset has been acquired, check their invoices. If sold, how have they been sold, at what rate? Investments of the NGO, check their investment register and compare the investments physically as well. That investments should be in the name of NGO and not in the name of any member. Verify further investments and disinvestments for approval by the appropriate authority and reference in bank accounts for the principal amount and interest. So what is investment? When you put money in some scheme, and disinvestment is when you take your money out of, break it. That is disinvestment. Cash in hand, you have to verify cash in hand, impress balances, chapter 9 programs. Bank balances, inventory, these are all items related to chapter 9. We have covered it over there. Income and expenditure items, incomes. So how do you, these were, the A part was the liabilities and this was the assets. So we are done with the balance sheet. One slide related to liabilities, second slide related to assets. Now income and expenditure item, we are here with incomes. Auditing the incomes of NGO, contributions and grants received, check agreements with donors and grant letters. Grant letters are letters issued from the authority giving grant to ensure that funds received have been properly accounted for. And if there is any foreign contribution received, it has been deposited in the foreign contribution bank account as notified under the Act FCR. So contribution and grants for specific projects and programs, receipts from fundraising programs. For example, you organized a cultural event, tickets and passes were sold, it's Dandiya event or during those 9 days or any kind of such program which is like famous, which is like quite any celebration quite famous in your area, and your NGO has arranged for a program, tickets are issued, passes are issued, whatever receipts you get from those fundraising programs, you have to check who were the authorized persons, how did they receive the money, has the money being properly accounted for, receipts properly issued to the donors, and it has been deposited in the bank on daily basis. Whatever was the receipts of the day, they have been deposited in the bank on daily basis. You organize for stalls in your event. So whatever money you get by any agreement from the fundraising programs, the auditor has to check. The membership fees of the NGO, you have to check the membership register. There is proper classification between the entrance and the annual fees and the life membership fees. So if any member wants to become a member of a particular NGO for life, he can give membership fees. For example, it could be 1 lakh rupees one time. If any member wants to join the club, join the NGO, he'll be charged an entrance fee of 10,000, and further he'll have to give annual fee of 5,000 every year. This is a specific fees, the entrance fees, and then the annual fees. And if somebody doesn't want to wish to pay every year, he or she says, I want to become a life member of the NGO, he can give life membership fees. So we have to reconcile the opening balances and any closing balances and fees received during the year. Then subscriptions. So you have to check the subscription register if the NGO is somewhat related to this. They are selling products or services, or they are coming out with any subscriptions of magazines, anything. If anybody has subscribed for any of the products or services of the NGO, you have to check the subscription with the receipts issued to the subscription holders. Then interest and dividends, quite simple, done, covered in chapter 9. Now coming to expenses. Program and project expenses. Verify agreement with donor contributors supporting a particular program. For example, a particular organization or a donor is somehow sponsoring me for my particular event, for blood donation camp or an awareness seminar. So what is the agreement with that particular donor, and any contracts entered into, any tax provisions, tax compliances, any deposits and returns to be filed to verify the terms of contract under any law. This has to be taken care of. Establishment expenses is if you are employing people in the NGO, right? Many big NGOs employ people for their working. So check for the establishment expenses such as the Provident Fund, the LIP of those, employee state insurance expense, their insurance expenses, their future provident funds, and other administrative charges are properly being made. The expenses such as postage, stationery, traveling. So NGO's work is to work for social welfare. So you cannot bear with corruption or something of personal vested interest in the working of an NGO. That is forbidden. So this was a concept of NGO. Any doubts till now? Okay, so we suppose my NGO is running a school and my friend gives a donation to the NGO. My friend A gives a donation to the NGO and it states clearly that I'm giving 5 lakhs to your NGO, Vipul, and this amount should be used for constructing an AC room in your school. The school being maintained by the NGO. Okay, that is kind of a capital receipt. And the school maintained by the NGO charges very nominal fee, 20 rupees per month, 50 rupees per month, 100 rupees per month from the students, or donations are received for the working to use towards the working of the NGO, the school. Those are in the nature of revenue. I hope, Surbhi, that is clear. Okay, should we move ahead? Let us do some smaller topics. Pooja, not major difference. Not major difference. One and the same thing. Let's move ahead with the audit of a club. So how many of you have been to a club? Your family, friends, or parents might be having subscriptions with the club membership, a town hall club in your city, or any other road track club, any club which has the provision of food. There is a restaurant or there is a playing area, and we could be I would say there could be a restaurant, There could be a gym, swimming pool, any kind of facilities given by the clubs. Yes, you'll be right. Life subscription fees, whatever is given, is somewhat appropriated over the years by mathematical calculations, that is arithmetical calculations, and it is appropriated over the years with respect to that particular donor or the member. So Rias is never ever. Club doesn't mean that DJ club or that club which you visit at night for parties, dancing and all. No, that is also a part of the clubs which you are talking about, but I'm talking about clubs where all other amenities are also provided and you become a member of the club. Okay, so for this purpose, let us say we have a club by the name of DJ Club. Okay, throughout the time we study about this, the DJ Club. The DJ Club. Okay, let I be the auditor of this club. So I want to audit the accounts. For a surprise visit, I enter the club. So this is the club. Okay, I am just making the club building. The club seems to be like the Eiffel Tower, slant from one side. Okay, so these are the 3 floors of the club and the top floor. So we want definition for everything. You'll never be asked what is the definition of a club. Club is just like an association of persons, right? And persons, some people, they just get together to form an association, and in any form, under any legal constitution, to give and enjoy some basic amenities. Okay. Suppose this particular DJ club has a restaurant. Okay, so let it be. I'll give it to you. So this is the reception. This is the gym and the play area. This is the restaurant. The floors, right? Ground floor, first floor, second floor. And this is the top floor, the management room. Where only VIP access is possible, or with permission access is there. Okay, fine. Chali. So I am going to audit a club. First of all, so this is the auditor. So I am the auditor. So I enter the club. Reception. There is a receptionist. Hello, sir. How may I help you? What would I say? I would say, I want to be a member of the club. I could be a member of the club. I could take the membership of the club. So I say, yes, sir, definitely you can be a member of the club. For that, we charge an entrance fee. So my first point over here is to check the entrance fees. I will check the entrance fees. How will I check the entrance fees as an auditor? With the members register. Receipts issued to them. When we issue them the receipts, we have counterfoils. Counterfoils are the pages in the receipt book under the carbon paper. And we will also check the minutes of the managing committee here. How new members were added, what was the entrance fee charged, and what was the criteria for adding new members to the club. Club subscription, what was the rate of the club subscription, what was the fee being charged, what was the eligibility criteria to take new members into the club. So club is just an association of persons. Fine. Then second thing, what would I be asking them is, okay, ma'am, now I paid the entrance fee. Now, what is the subscription fee? I want to be a member of the club. So please tell me, how can I subscribe to the amenities of the club? Being a member, you being a member of the clubs or various groups, you are issued cards and you get special corporate discounts or member discounts on those cards. So there is a subscription fee. Subscription fee would be checked again with members register. And if you have done the accounting in chapter of NPO, you were asked in questions to calculate subscriptions at the beginning of the year, subscriptions at the end of the year, subscriptions received during the year. These were the kind of questions you would get in your accounts exam in the chapter of NPO. This is what the subscription is. Annual subscriptions, these are annual fees you give to the club, charged by the club for being their members. So the second step is subscription fee. Now, with subscription, I would check the register. And what would I observe? I would observe there are arrears of subscription. Some members have still not paid some or whole part of their subscriptions during the previous year. Revenue has not been fully collected. While some members would have paid advance for the years to come as well. With the previous year subscription, we were offering discounts. The club was offering discounts that next year we are going to revise the club subscription fee. If you pay for 2 years, this year only, we will charge you the same fees which we are charging for the current year. So some members would have paid in advance. Some members' subscription would have been in arrears. So I have to check the arrears have been brought over from the previous years and properly carried over to the next year as well. Now, when subscription is there, it involves money. Subscription will involve money as well. And wherever money is involved, paisa is involved, you have to check for the arithmetical accuracy of the subscription register. I have to check the arithmetical accuracy. The totals are properly made. Entries properly posted. total column of the register of members, and we have to tally them across. And I have to check over what were the areas and what steps have been taken to recover these dues. Are the steps being taken by the club to recover these dues? So on the first floor, when I've entered the club, at the reception itself, what was my topics? Entrance fee. Let me use a different color so that you can get a view of that. Entrance fee, subscriptions, arrears and advances, arithmetical accuracy, and recovery of arrears. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 points of audit program of a club covered at ground floor, at the reception itself. Or there could be the accountant or the accounting room at the reception. Now I move from the left to the second floor. There is a gym and play area. Okay. So what would I check over here? The gym equipment. Okay. The sports equipment. Furniture. Basically, I am checking the physical assets over here. Fine, I have to check them with their invoices. The purchase of these items with their invoices, I have to tally them across. What else will I check? Their purchase, as well their inventory with the inventory register. So 6th point, 7th point. Further, I move to the second floor, the restaurant. I'm hungry. I want to have some food. I want to check the quality of the food and how does the restaurant work. What would I check over here? I would check over here the members' account maintained with the club register. Because the members come and they don't pay, they just give their card. An entry is charged on their card, and they might make monthly payments or quarterly payments, or they might have paid in advance for the whole year, and the amount gets deducted from that money already paid in advance. The pricing of the food items, the taxes being charged, levied from the customers, what discount are members offered, what discount are non-members offered, pricing of the food products, if there are any arrears of this amount as well to be charged from the members, any special fee charged to the members for any special facilities, margins earned, what kind of margins are earned from the members and non-members on the sale of food stuff and other amenities, using the swimming pool of the club, using the play area of the club. So point number 8, point number 9, point number 10, point number 11. Okay, after going through all the 3 floors, checking each and everything, I go to meet the management who have appointed me as the auditor. These are the management people sitting over here. मैं इन्हें भी नहीं छोड़ूंगा, इनसे भी क्वेश्चन पूछूंगा. I'll ask them questions as well relating to my audit. Okay, what are your powers? Who has what authority in your team? Who may has the financial powers to expend on behalf of the club? Further, I would ask them about the investments made in the name of the club as per their minutes from the surplus money with the club. So they are the persons who take the decision, top management, where to invest the money and how, in what form. So these are the persons who are authorized to tell me answers to these questions. What are their powers? How are the club decisions taken? Who has the signing authority? Who has got the financial powers? How do you make the investments and in what form? So point number 12 and 13. So this was my club. 5 points I covered over here at the reception. 2 points I covered in the play area. 4 points are covered in the restaurant and 2 points are covered with the management room. 13 points I covered during the whole audit, and this is what you have to write professionally. I have made you understand in the layman language. You have to understand easily and write professionally in your answers. Okay, I hope the drawing has become a bit of messy. Let us complete how do we audit a club. Okay, so entrance fee, we have first point, entrance fee. Vouch the receipt on account of entrance fee. This was reception. See, whatever I am writing, you're not supposed to write that in your exam. Whatever you're supposed to write in your exam is what is there in the presentation, okay? Don't write the examples or anything which I am using, any aids which I am using to make you understand these points. So reception, the first point was entrance fee, vouch the receipt on account of entrance fee. Members' applications, members would have applied to join the club and counterfoils issued to them against the entrance fee, and reference to minutes of the managing committee about the terms and conditions of taking up new members. Then came member subscription, counterfoils of receipt issued to them. We have to check for a selected period because we want to know subscriptions outstanding in the beginning, outstanding at the last, due during the year. Further, arrears of subscription, subscriptions received in advance. Then arrears of subscription of previous year have been properly brought over and they stand in the books of accounts. And arrears for the year under audit and subscription received in advance have been correctly adjusted. Subscriptions received in advance should have been properly accounted for. Then in the reception itself, we checked with the register of members about the arithmetical accuracy, and if there are any member dues, any dues, it may be related to subscription, it may be related to the provision of club facilities, the restaurant food. I have to check with the register of members if there are any dues with respect to the members, whether necessary steps have been taken for their recovery, and if there is any amount irrecoverable. you have to mention it in your audit report that this much amount, for example, the amount of 2 lakhs, we found it irrecoverable from 5 members. Some of them died, some of them left the city, some of them are not traceable, some of them there is a dispute. So this is the amount which seems to be irrecoverable. You have to mention it in your audit report. Further, when I move to the restaurant pricing policy with respect to the price being charged for foodstuffs and drinks provided to the guest, fee charged for special services like billiards, tennis, pool facilities, member accounts maintained in the play area as well as with the restaurant. We have to check debits for a selected period from subsidiary registers. Subsidiary registers are maintained with the restaurant, that particular facility provider. Restaurant, play area, game section area, they maintain subsidiary draft registers with them. And from those registers, we have to check what are the dues from a member. And whether whatever services are being or foodstuff is being provided to the member, they are properly being debited to his account maintained in the subsidiary register. So what margins are maintained over the purchase of foodstuffs, cigars, wines? There could be a bar maintained by the club. We have to check that normal rates of GP have been earned on the sales and there is no manipulation involved. The inventory of unsold provisions and stores, the closing stocks, should be verified physically and their valuation be checked in the books of accounts. Now I have been to the play area as well as to the restaurant. I would check the inventory register with respect to the food stuff, with respect to the purchase of sport items and other furniture with the register, and the maintenance of inventory of such items. I'll check them physically. Now time to meet the management to inspect the share scripts, the bonds. The management tells me that these are the investments we are maintaining. Check them, whether they provide you with an online statement or if they have them the investment in physical form. Check their current values and how have they been disclosed in the final accounts of the club. Club can be constituted because since it is an association of persons, it is usually registered as a society or as a trust, the club. Okay. Ascertain that the arrangements for their safe custody are satisfactory. And you have to check what are the powers available to the management people, specifically the financial powers. Financial powers means to receive money on behalf of the club, to expend money on behalf of the club. And if any such powers have been exceeded to the member to whom these powers have been given, we have to ask for such cases and report in an audit report by discussing with the managing committee. So these were the points in the audit of a club. Whenever we are taking these specific entities, always assume them to be in your situation. Recall your experience. Just correlate your experience with the professional words and professional sentences and frame your answer. Any doubts in the audit of a club, please? So big clubs don't have a subsidiary. It is a subsidiary registers. The registers of various containing various details with respect to the members. Any doubt in the audit of a club? Committees are something different. Yes, they could be NGOs, they could be RIA, they could be NGOs as well, the committees. Committees are nothing but they are some subgroups formed, whether in the NGO or a club. they have different objectives. The NGO objective is social welfare. The club's objective is basically entertainment, recreative, rejuvenation purposes. Okay, fine. So let's move ahead with our next topic. We'll cover the charitable institution. Let us take a break, right? We have been through the half time. Let us take a break of 15 minutes. It's 7:20 and we'll be back by 7:35. And we'll be covering other such small topics and interesting topics. Okay? So a break and let's meet at 7:35. Samji? हाँ जी हाँ जी Okay, guys, we are back. So after club, a normal topic of charitable institution. I suppose you might have read this topic in your income tax subject, chapter 3 as well. And after covering NGOs, this topic would seem a bit easier to you. So, special steps involved in the audit of a charitable institution. Charitable institution which carries out the charity work. Okay, now it can be any, right? NGO, Section 8 company, society, trust. So what are the general provisions? The common points we did while starting this chapter. Study the constitution. Charitable trust. Is it a trust, or is it a society, or is it a Section 8 company? Verify whether the institution is being managed in the manner contemplated, means as laid, as given by the law under which it has been set up. We have to examine the system of internal check with respect to accounting of amounts collected as donations. Verify in detail the income and confirming that amounts received have been deposited in the bank regularly and promptly. These are all some of the points which we have covered till now. Now, specific points. After general points, specific points in the case of a charitable trust. Subscriptions and donations. Ascertaining if any changes made in the amount of annual or life membership subscription during the year. Okay, I'll come to that, Ria. So, life membership subscription. Have you guys ever heard about the chartered accountants benevolent fund, CABF? Ever heard about this fund? Chartered Accountants Benevolent Fund, CABF. If you have never heard about it, just Google it out after your class, and you will be surprised to know that there is a fund maintained at the institute level for providing help and support to members and students in times of distress. Providing scholarship to students, providing financial relief to members for certain treatments, or in the case of a death of a member, to provide for the living of their family. All professional brothers and sisters, chartered accountants, contribute to this fund, and this money is utilized for these purposes. So when subscription to this fund is made, it may be made annually. You can make annual contribution to this fund, or you can be a life member. Life member by paying one-time lump sum amount. By being a one-time member, one-time amount, you became a lifetime member, and this aid is provided to the members and their families. Scholarships are also provided to the students. Okay. See, Ria, Pooja, NGOs are a bit of kind of, informal organizations. Okay. You can set up an NGO in your area, in your colony, or in your society. Charitable institutions are usually registered as a trust, basically. So whatever you read about charitable institutions in your income tax, it is basically this chapter. Charitable institutions as hospitals, as schools. NGOs are an association of persons. They can help in the running of a school. They can only help, but charitable institutions run the school. Okay, so when amount is received by the charitable organization, adequate control is imposed over unused receipt books. You'll see there are various ashrams and other bodies, charitable organizations, which issue you the receipts that we have taken this much donation from this person, or sometimes anonymous donations, which are fondly known as Guptdan, anonymous donations, right? So proper control is imposed over unused receipt books. Receipt books which have been unused, because they should not be tampered with. Okay. Obtaining all receipt books covered in the period law, simple vouching, test checking the counterfoils with the cash book, any cancelled, no, whatever donations you have received, you have to tally them with the cash and the bank receipts. Any cancelled receipts, why have they been cancelled? If somebody was willing to give donation, why has it been cancelled? Obtaining the printed list of subscriptions. For example, a particular charitable institution comes out with a magazine every month, every quarter, or is in the business of selling some produce. Then examining the system of internal check regarding money received from box collections, flag days. These are some events. Boxes installed at various shops in the city. Dan Patra. And that amount is further forwarded to a charitable institution. What were the amounts received? Who were the people who were representing these amounts? Collectors. And verifying the total subscriptions and donations with figures published in their reports, quarterly reports, monthly reports, or annual reports. Unused receipt books means, RIA, that you have 500 receipt books. You take money from the donor. You take money from the donor, 100 rupees, and you issue him receipt. Have you seen the receipts where it is written under at the bottom of the receipt? This is a tax deductible receipt. The deduction is available under section 80G. Basically, those are charitable institutions. So if you are confused between NGO and charitable institutions, so NGOs usually registered as trust under the Indian Trust Act or income tax, they are basically the charitable institutions. Scope of NGO is wide, then a charitable institution. So unused receipt books are those books which have not been used till now. You just open a receipt book. Unless and until receipts from that particular book have finished, exhausted, you cannot open another receipt book. Those are unused receipt books. I hope, Priya, that is clear. Legacies and grants. What is legacy? Grants, I've told you, government organizations, government departments give donations known as grants. You have your chapter of AS 12, government grants in accounting. Verifying the amounts received by reference to corresponding with any figures and other available information. Vouching the amount received with the relevant correspondence receipts, minute books. This was a grant received, how has it been accounted for? And obtaining a certificate from a responsible official in the institution showing the amounts of receipt. The person concerned, the official, we should ask for a representation from him, management representation, this certificate. This was a grant received for this particular purpose. This much amount has been used and this much amount is lying under the heads of grants. Can anybody tell me what are legacies? Legacies word written over here, legacies and grants. What are legacies in the case of a charitable institution? Income from investments, definitely you will check the dividend, interest, counterfoils, calculations of interest made properly, then dividend has been received properly on an investment held by the trust. Comparing the amounts of dividend received with the schedule of investments, there is no under recording or over recording. Then sometimes charitable institutions have buildings or offices, they rent the place for organizing various events. So you have to examine the rent roll or the rent receipts, actual tenancy agreements, and check the amount of rent, the due dates, whether they are being received properly. And checking the rent received, the counterfoils issued, the receipts issued to the tenant with the counterfoil of receipt book, and checking the totals of the cash book with the rent account. Common points covered in chapter 9. Yes, Riya, Sampatti. Legacy means someone has given his legal right to anything like land, property. Yes. You could see in the movies or sitcoms or web series, like there is a person and that person is dying. So what do you say? My whole wealth, I want to donate it to a charitable institution that works for the upliftment of old age people. So basically, amount donated by way of a will. Amount donated by way of a will. That is legacies. Okay. Sundry receipts. So what are other receipts? Like you have organized special functions, some you would say religious function or social function, and you were the basic contributor in organizing the event. You received some funds or concerts or dramatic performances to help the poor, for organizing charity. And if there is some event being organized, check for the tickets issued properly, and if any tickets have been returned, how was the returns accounted for. So further, the expenditure of the charitable institution, vouching the payment of grants. Grants have been paid only for a charitable purpose. So if you have received, suppose I have a charitable institution, so whatever donations I have received, I am using it for the objects of the charitable institution. For example, there are some students who require financial aid in their studies. I'm issuing them checks to help them study properly, to district hospitals, I can issue checks to NGOs. As a charitable institution, I have some money, I can issue checks to NGOs in different areas of my city to use it for the upliftment of the poor, the downtrodden. Then verifying the schedule of securities as well as inventories of both movable and movable properties, securities. Verifying the cash and bank balances. Any funds contributed for a special purpose have been utilized for that purpose only. And checking for the salaries made as per the agreements. Proper sanctions have been made by the appropriate authority to disburse such amounts. All points covered in chapter 9 or in this chapter till now. Taxation and tax returns. Check whether the institution enjoys exemption, the most important point. Check if the institution enjoys exemption under the Income Tax Act. And if payment of taxes has been made, for example, the charitable institution had an FD with the bank, suppose of rupees 1 crore. During the year, 5% interest was given on this FD, 5 lakh rupees, and bank deducted TDS on this amount. Since the charitable institution enjoys exemption under the Income Tax Act, so 5 lakh 50,000 TDS deducted and 4 lakh 50,000 given to the charitable institution. Charitable institution enjoys exemption. Whatever surplus it has, if it fulfills all the eligibility conditions, it is not required to pay tax. So what about this 50,000? So the charitable institution will file the return and claim refund of this TDS. We have to check if any refunds have been received, any interest of refunds have been received, they are properly accounted for. Okay, so most of the points are similar, right? Chal. So now let us move to the hotel. Okay. ABC group of hotels. I'm on a vacation and I've booked a room in this hotel. Fine. So I drive to this hotel. The first thing I do is I enter the hotel. This is the entrance. So here is the security guard. He checks me. He checks me for security purposes and my luggage. Okay. And then there is this person. Further, he escorts me to the reception desk. After completing all the formalities, I am taken by another person to my room. My room is on the 11th floor of the hotel. After going to the room, I take a bath, I take rest for a few minutes, and then I move down, I come down, and I go to the restaurant at the ground floor of the hotel. I have a buffet included in my booking, or I can order a la carte at the restaurant for food. Okay, chaliye. This is on my vacation to Goa. Fine. I'm a chartered accountant. I'm on a vacation to Goa, and I am understanding how would I audit a hotel. Further, I want to go on a tour of Goa. So after coming out of the restaurant, I see there is this banquet hall. And a marriage function is going on in this banquet hall. No, I don't go uninvited. I have had my food in this restaurant. I won't go uninvited over here. I won't gate crash over here. So I enjoy watching all the proceedings. Then I come over here. So this is the tourist desk. where there is information available for the tourists, for the info, for any taxi bookings, for any sightseeing bookings, and there are stalls for shopping as well. So that is my proper vacation. Okay. So this is what my hotel looks like. Now let us audit this hotel one by one. So when I entered the hotel, what I noticed is the auditor in me. What did it notice? I'm so sorry, Surbhi. I wish for you that you become a chartered accountant and you get to audit hotels in Goa. So you enter the hotel, security guard checked me, a person escorted you to the reception, then a different person escorted you to the room, then there was restaurant, the manager escorted or the person escorted me to a table, and then there is a different person in the lobby who is telling me about the tourist desks and stalls. What is it? I would check that the internal controls in the hotel. For my room amenities, what are the room amenities? Toiletries, cleaning, room service. How are these being managed? How is the room being cleaned throughout the day? How are the toiletries or the eatables in the room being refilled? The soap, the shampoo, the bath form, eatables are the snacks and the beverages. How are they being refilled? The tea, the coffee, complimentary. So this is all what tells me about the strength of the internal controls in the hotel. First part, throughout the hotel. Okay. Then when I was in my room at the reception, I asked them, "Dear sir, I have made a booking on this particular website." They check it, confirm it with me, and hand over me my room keys. So here I will check, and there would be a point of mind. How are room bookings made? Cash at the counter, online, through agents, and if there is any foreign tourist involved, how is the foreign exchange handled? Receipts you get in foreign exchange, either they give you in rupee, and how are these handled? If they use an international card, swipe an international card, or they have money in dollars, how is it accounted for? How are the rooms sold? What are the various room packages available? Complimentary buffet, 3 kinds of rooms, deluxe, super deluxe, executive, presidential suite. What are the discounts offered? What is the room rent? Everything I'll study. Then when I enjoyed the marriage procession going on in this banquet hall, I'll check how are banquet hall bookings made. On what basis? That would be my criteria. Or banquet hall bookings made. What are the rates charged? Then the most important concern in my case would be the inventory of these things. Inventory of eatables, toiletries, other items, and inventory maintained in the restaurant as well. or food items. Further, when I was over here waiting in the lobby for my cab to come, I was sitting on a sofa, watching TV. There was some good interior decoration of the hotel. So this is all what are the fixed assets. The hotel has its own cab facility. That is also the fixed assets, vehicles. While sitting on the sofa waiting for my cab, I was seeing people escorting the guests. There were cleaners, receptionists, security guards, chauffeurs, room attendants. So I will think about who is permanent and who is casual. So labor. Then when I went to these tourist desks and stalls, has the hotel given them this place on rent, or the hotel charges them commission on all the bookings made through their guests? All the items sold by the stalls when the guests shop over here, is there any royalty agreement, commission agreement, or they have taken this place on rent? This would be my next step. I am a chartered accountant, I am an auditor. Even on vacation, my brain keeps on working, analyzing things. So what were my points? My points were, first point. The first point was internal controls. Second point, room booking and banquet hall booking. Third point, maintenance of inventories. Fourth point, fixed assets. Fifth point, casual labor or labor. Sixth point, agreement with tourist agents and stalls. So this is what the audit of my hotel would look like. Ria, drone, yeah, drone. You know, I'm that kind of auditor who is auditing the hotel by way of drone. Okay, so my hotel is really big. This is clear. These are my points. Let us consider these points one by one. So internal controls. Okay. So in internal controls, we have the most important point is pilfering. You know, that chote soaps, shampoos, toothpaste, all other items in the hotel room provided to you complimentary. Pilferage is theft in small amounts. So pilfering is one of the greatest problems in any hotel, and therefore we need strong internal controls, and it is the duty of the management to introduce such controls. How do you check whether the internal controls are strong or not? When the hotel prepares regular or weekly trading accounts of each sales point, detailed scrutiny of resulting profit percentages with any deviations being reported. Obviously, the profits would get deviated if there is pilferage of inventory. The auditor would obtain these regular trading accounts of period under review examine them and obtain explanations for any apparent deviations. If there are any deviations from the regular, the auditor has to obtain explanations. Why is there such a deviation from the regular profit percentages? Why is there such a loss of stock? You remember accounting chapter 2, when someone from you was with me on the audit of a hotel, and we were auditing the bar, bottles got broken. What are the normal loss amounts, abnormal loss amounts? Why is there such a deviation in percentages, whether it is explainable or not? If the internal control in the hotel is weak or it breaks down, a very serious problem exists for the auditor, because, as Ria said through my drone, many people are involved in providing the services exactly of a hotel. In this case, the auditor has to increase his audit tests. Otherwise, he will have to consider qualifying his audit report. And point of collecting taxes like the GST, and that if any taxes in the bar, they have been collected properly on the food and have been deposited to the authorities, proper authorities. So internal control is over spread over the whole hotel working. Room sales, the second point. So if we consider the room sales, the charge of room sales is normally posted to guest bills by the receptionist, front office, in case of large hotels, by the night auditor. Who is a night auditor? We discussed in the chapter 2 as well. The person who gives duty at the reception in the night. At the end of the day, they post the guest bills to the account of the guest, to the revenue account of the hotel. The source of these entries is the guest register, obviously, which shows the bookings. And audit tests should be carried out to ensure that the correct number of guests are charged for the correct period. The difference arises when there is closing of the month or the year. For example, 31st March 2022. My God, it is the same day. Oh, what a coincidence. As of today, 31st March, if there is a booking, one day will fall on this year and another day will fall, the other day will fall in next year. Any difference between the charge rates on the guest bill and the standard room rate should be investigated. Oh, why have they been charged? Why have the foreign guests been charged so high? And there is this relative of an employee of the hotel. He has been given discount of 50%. Why so? Is there any policy? Is there any laid policy by the hotel for this? Or there is some manipulation? In many hotels, the housekeeper prepares a daily report of the rooms occupied in the previous night, beds kept in each room. Report needs to be permanently retained, and auditor should ensure that sufficient number of such reports are available for him to test check with the guest register. Housekeeper will prepare a report. In this particular room, 2 beds were there, extra bed was there. So the auditor will check the housekeeper's report with the number of persons in the guest register. If the number of persons entered in the guest register was only 1, what was the need of providing extra bed in room number 301 that night? Ensure compliance with the provisions of FEMA and RBI if receipts are in foreign currency, foreign tourists. Ensure that proper conversion rate has been used to convert the currency in books. Special emphasis to be laid on receipts through credit cards. The auditor should ensure that proper valuation of occupancy in progress at the balance sheet date, this date, today, balance sheet date, occupancy in progress, proper valuation is made in the books of accounts. Inventories in the hotel are portable and saleable, particularly the food and beverage inventories. So inventory movement should be properly documented and checked upon. From the store areas and sales point. Sales point is a restaurant. Auditor should check all the documentation. In case where large quantities of inventory are held, they should be kept logged. For example, there is this particular room where inventory of the whole hotel toiletries is maintained. It should be kept logged because proper documentation should be there. The inventories of various items is really small and they can be pilfered with easily. And the key should be retained by the departmental manager. The key should be released only to trusted personnel. An unauthorized person should not be permitted in the store areas except under constant supervision. A supervisor should accompany along with, or proper recordings, proper monitoring is made through the CCTV cameras. Any movement of the goods in or out of the stores should be checked properly. Many hotels use specialized professional valuer to take and value the inventories on a continuous basis. Such a valuation is then used as a basis of the balance sheet inventory. So if you have an expert certificate or professional valuer certificate that yes, this is the inventory of the crockery of this value maintained, right? Such valuers are independent of the audit client. So relying on an expert, it is important that the auditor satisfies himself the amount is reasonable. Standard on auditing, relying on the auditor's expert. The auditor should consider attending physical inventory taking and carrying out certain pricing and calculation tests. Very simple. Fixed assets. Sometimes fixed assets, we have already done points related to fixed assets. The one peculiar point is this case is many hotels maintain some quasi-fixed assets, such as silver, cutlery on inventory basis, which can lead to confusion between valuation. Because some hotels maintain their silver and other cutlery as their fixed assets. Some hotels take them as quasi-fixed asset. Quasi means somewhat like fixed assets, somewhat like inventory. So they maintain them on inventory basis, rather than on a normal fixed asset basis. So in such cases, it is very much important that a detailed definition of inventory exists by the hotel. The hotel should clearly lay out a policy. How does it maintain its silver cutlery and other cutlery? And the auditor should carry out tests as per these definitions as laid down by the hotel. The cost of repairs and renovations or redecoration, whether to be treated as revenue or capital as per the basics of accounting, the auditor should check. And checking the cash and bank reconciliation statement. Proper records are maintained for booking of halls. And the auditor in the restaurant, the auditor should verify a few restaurant bills, sample checking, few restaurant bills, audit sampling by reference to KOTs, kitchen order tickets. Okay. Kitchen order tickets. What is kitchen order ticket? You go to a restaurant or an eating point, you give your order, they give you a ticket to be given to a certain window. That is a kitchen order ticket. So you should check the bills with kitchen order tickets. The kitchen order tickets, the kitchen maintains it with the tickets with them, and you can check the tickets maintained with them along with the entries in the accounting register, what was sold and what was ordered. Casual labor and staff expenses. So hotels employ labor, casual labor to a very large extent. Then you should track how are they being paid the wages to check for any dummy payments. So you can check some salary and dummy payments using analytical procedures. Analytical procedures is how was the labor being paid in the previous year, in the previous quarter, in the previous month? What was the amount of expense? If the expense has risen to a good extent, what is the reason behind this? Was there any event in the hotel? or is it a busy tourist season, so that the hotel has employed more casual labor. We have to check that there should not be any dummy payments and cash has been defalcated. Dummy payments in the name of wages have been shown and that cash has been manipulated by the person, authorized person, the manager, or anyone who is keeping a control over it. Then travel agents and shops in the hotel, check what is the agreement with them, how is money recovered from these travel agents, if there is any commission agreement or spaces have been let out to such persons on rent, what is the agreement entered into with them. So this was hotel. Yes, Surbhi, this could also be the case. So this was the hotel. Anything in the case of hotel? Anything, please, you may come up. In the case of hotel. Okay. Let's move to another topic. Yes, a token is given when you order something. Educational institution, a school, a college. So general conditions are the same. When you're going to audit an educational institution, you would examine the trust deed or the regulations in the case of a school or college, because they are usually run under a trust. In the case of a university, universities are set up under various acts. You have to study the provisions of that act or regulations. There is a governing body. You have to go through the minutes of the meetings of that governing body and the resolutions passed, whether they have been complied with, and how are the bank accounts operated, how are the expenses sanctioned. Now, specific points relating to educational institution. The first point is receipt from students. So what are the basic sources? Admission fees, admission slips, you should be checked, that should be signed by the head of the institution. Now, many of the times these are online, digitally signed, and you must check that the amount has been credited to the capital fund. You have to check who rate, actually tally the names in the student fee register for each month or term with the specific respective class register, showing the names of those students, sample checking, fee charged, and verify that proper internal check system is there. You should check the counterfoils with the entries in the cash book to check if there is any manipulation in the fees collected. Arithmetical accuracy to be checked up. Okay, then any fines or late fees charged from the students have been collected or remitted under proper authority, whether it has to be waived off or whether it has to be collected under proper authority, proper permission is there to collect the fine or late payments. What are the miscellaneous receipts in the case of an educational institution? Postal receipts. If the college or the school is maintaining a hostel, so hostel dues are recovered properly from the student accounts, and their deposits of caution money. What is caution money? Please, what is caution money? Am I right? Security deposit. So if the student leaves the school, he has completed his studies, his caution money is refunded properly, or if there are any interest provisions on that caution money. Rental income from if the educational institution has given on rent their hall, their auditorium for any event, what rent was being charged, rent agreement was entered into. Investments of the school, college from endowments and legacies, donations given to the school, right? Interest incomes, dividend from investments, normal points to be checked. These are miscellaneous receipts apart from the receipts from students. Students' receipts are the major receipts of any educational institution. Apart from that, these are the miscellaneous receipts. Then grants and donations received from governments or local authorities. If any expense has been disallowed for the purpose of grant, ascertain the reasons thereof. You wanted to expend on something related to the education, but it is disallowed. For the grant you have received, the expenses disallowed. What were the reasons for the disallowance of such expense? What donations were received by the school? They have been mentioned properly in the annual report. Compare it over there. What was for the general purpose or specific purpose? Investments. Yes, the school might be maintaining an endowment fund or prize fund to award prizes to the highly intellectual or achievers students. So a proper fund should be maintained, and any income in excess of the prizes has been accumulated and invested along with the corpus. Confirm TDS wala point we have discussed in the case of charitable institution. The capital expenditure is properly authorized and sanctioned. Any undue heavy expenditure should be taken care of and reported. If there was a budget prepared, see that the expenditure should not exceed the budget by a big amount. If you come across any deviation, you should bring it to the committee's notice in your report. Any scholarship or concessions given by the student are granted under proper authority and as per the rules. Staff payment, salaries to teachers and category B workers, provident fund accounts properly maintained, and the fund money has been invested in appropriate securities by the educational institution as per the government rules and regulations. If there is increase in the salaries of the staff, the accountant or the head accountant should not have taken this decision by themselves. This increase has been properly sanctioned, and decision should have been properly taken in the meeting and provided for in the minutes of the meeting. Assets verify, very common. We have done it till now. How to verify the assets. Liabilities, just about the question money, because it is one of the biggest liabilities. And any other deposits by students on admission have been shown as liability. This should be shown as liability because they have to be returned to the students when they leave the organization. They should not be treated as income and transferred to revenue unless they are not refundable. If they are refundable, they are liabilities. And if they are not refundable, they should be apportioned over the years. Internal controls, if there are heavy arrears on account of fees, student fees is not being recovered, or rents of the hostel, and if you can see that various funds, if the school or the college is maintaining different funds, the statement of these funds is checked properly. Annual statements, poor boys fund, games funds, hostel fund, provident fund of staff, etc. Electricity, water bills be checked, and capital fund. If there is an increase or decrease in the capital fund with respect to previous year, it should be checked properly. So basically apply all the common points we have studied on the specific nature of that particular organization whose audit you are going to conduct. Okay. So this was all about educational institution. Okay, the last topic for the day. The last topic for the day is cinema hall. Okay, we'll start with cinema hall in the next session. Let us complete the audit of a hospital. We have already done NGOs, charitable institutions, educational institutions. So hospital is somewhat that you will understand easily. In the audit of a cinema hall, we have certain terms which I need to tell you specifically. Okay, so we have this. No, Surbhi, there is no such criteria. The quality of education, that is on the part of the committee or who are running the school. The quality of education, the boards which grant recognition and accreditation to the schools, it is their duty to check on the quality. I suppose the points related to hospital are quite easy and you will understand them really well. Whatever we have done till now, so you'll be easily getting to know all the points which you have to write in the case of a hospital. I'll be uploading these notes by tomorrow when we finish this chapter. And please make sure whatever drawings I am making or whatever layman languages and examples I am using, please do not use those in your exams. In exams, you have to write professionally, give examples and some credible examples. Okay, and you have to write the professional writing which is there in your notes, which I'll be uploading, or the module. Okay, fine. Yes, Ria. Hospital is hospital, whether private, government. So whether it is private or government related points, government audit related points would be there. But these are the points respectively to a hospital. So what are those points? First thing in the hospital, when you think of an hospital, you think of patient. So register of patient. Check the register of patients with the copies of bills issued to them. So bills for a selected period with the patient's attendance record. For how many days he was admitted in the hospital, how many days he was in the ICU, how many days he was in the special ward, and how many days he was in his room. You have to check this attendance with the daily register and corroborate it with the bills. And you should check for the bifurcation of the bill. What are the rent charges? What are the service charges and medicine payments? And if there was food being provided or any person accompanying the patient in the hospital for these days was being provided accommodation, food and everything. You know, big corporate hospitals, they've turned into providing these services. Bills, whether have been issued to the payments as per the rules of the hospital. Then you have collection of cash, check cash collections entered in cash book with receipts, counterfoils and other, for example, copies of patient bills. So if the patient has made the payment in cash, you should check them. Rent bills. You know, you cannot make, if you have read in your PGBP chapter in income tax, you cannot make payments of more than 10,000 in a single day. In the COVID period, this was a big problem because hospitals were not accepting cash. So the government came out with a notification. You can pay to the hospitals in cash up to this much amount. Because this was a period of pandemic. Emergency admissions were being made to the hospitals. People affected with corona, they required emergency treatment. and people were having cash. So this was a problem. This was a problem on the point of view of taxes, and the government came out with a notification. Yes, you can make payment in cash, right? And the receipt of OPD and IPD are being accounted for as per the policy of the hospital for each. Okay, what is OPD and what is IPD? I will wait for your answers and I'll tell you what is OPD and what is IPD. You have to tell me. Proper specific receipts for OPD and IPD are being accounted for separately, and separate registers are maintained for such receipts. Legacies, grants and donations we have already covered. I'll tell you what is OPD and IPD at the end. You have to tell me first. Subscriptions and donations, if it is a charitable hospital, then point of subscriptions, you have to replica what we have studied in charitable organization. Then income for investments, quite easy. You have to check them with the register. And again, refund of TDS. Inventories to be checked. Inventories in here, in this case, especially of stocks and stores, medicines, injection vials. You would have watched the news during the pandemic, the corruption that was going on at this level. Injection vials, the fake injection vials and medicines being sold in the market by some naughty elements of the society, antisocial elements. So you have to check for the stocks and stores at the end of the year, and some percentage of the items to be checked physically, audit sampling basis. Compare their value with the ledgers maintained, and special examination of authorization over purchase, storage and issue of high value stock. There is this injection vial which carries values in lakhs. One vial is of rupees 2 lakh. This is a very sensitive item of stock. There is proper authorization over its purchase, storage and issue to the patient. So you should thoroughly check such stores. And from the taxation part, check if the hospital is registered as a charitable institution and is eligible for income tax exemption. No, Surbhi. No. Harsh, you are right. I'll come to that, OPD and IPD. What was then? All purchases and expenses of capital expenditure, check them with their bills. Proper sanctions have been maintained by the trustees, prior sanction of the trustees, the managing committee of the trust or the trustees. Appointments of the doctors and other staff, salary packages have been duly authorized. Bills, if raised at concessional rates, have been duly authorized by proper person. Fixed assets, normal points, you have to check the purchases, the depreciation, the physical inspection, and internal controls. Various items of expenditure and income with the amount budgeted for them. If there is any variation in budgeted and actual amounts, it should be checked for. Receipt and issue of stores, medicines, linen. Linen is the bed sheets and other material in the room. Apparatus, clothing. Clothing is what we wear. The hospital patient wears, the doctors wear the green dress. Instrument, etc. To check they have been properly purchased under proper sanction, recorded and inventory register, properly maintained and further issued against proper authorization. Get proper management representation letter and certificates wherever you require from the managing committee. Very good. Gihani, Harsh. Very good. What is OPD and what is IPD? Okay. So here it goes. OPD is outpatient department. And IPD is inpatient department. When you visit a doctor, he or she checks you, examines you, prescribes you medicines, you pay the fee and come back. You are an outpatient. So that is OPD, outpatient department. You are not admitted to the hospital, in the hospital. You just go to the hospital for a checkup, the doctor examines you, prescribes you medicines, charges his fee, talks to you, consults you, and then you come back. That is OPD. IPD is inpatient departments, the people who are admitted into the hospital. They stay over there overnight or for some time. That is known as IPD, inpatient department. Okay, so separate registers to be maintained for OPD and IPD fees received. Separate register of patients' fees. What happens is when you apply, suppose any of your friends or siblings or parents working on job and they apply for sick leave, you have to furnish, or you might have to furnish a medical certificate to your school or college that you were not well. That is why you could not come to the school, go to the school. So they ask for a medical certificate from a doctor. So what does the doctor do? The doctor gives a reference of his OPD register. Yes, this patient came to me, he or she was having this problem. I prescribed him medicine and rest for this much days. Or if you were admitted into the hospital, the doctor gives the reference of the IPD register number. That this person was admitted in the hospital, he or she had this problem, he was admitted for 2 to 3 days, and then I prescribed rest for 3 days. So this is a proof, the medical certificate is a proof that you were actually not well, that is why you could not go to the school or the college or for your job. Priya, accounting for donations of ventilators or beds or cylinders, proper system of accounting is there with every hospital. Who is donating? How are they donating? Proper register is maintained and that has to be checked accordingly. So they have this proper disposal system as well. All hospitals need to have a proper disposal policy in with them as well in their hospital. The waste, the medical waste, these empty cylinders, ventilators, how are they disposed of? The beds, the number of beds in the hospital at present, out of them, how many have been purchased, how many have been donated. You could see in the case of charitable hospitals and all, on the fan, on the beds, on the outside the washroom, it is written, this was donated by Mr. and Mrs. Miss this is in the fond memory of his father, his wife, her husband, and all. So that is what is the proof of a donation. You should check it with the accounting records that yes, this particular item or cash was received and that was donation. Okay, so anything else you want your doubts to be cleared? We are left with 2 small topics and one a bit of medium topic. Audit of a cinema hall and hire purchase companies. These are 2 quite smaller topics. And then the last topic of this chapter, audit of cooperative societies. That is what we'll be doing tomorrow and finishing off with this chapter 13 and batch 4, the subject of auditing and assurance. Any doubts for the time being, or should we wind up, please? Yes, definitely, Surbhi. It can auditing can be done for anything. Your parents audit how do you spend your pocket money. Auditing can be done for anything where, but you have to check whether it is covered under a certain law, or it is being it is getting you are getting the audit conducted voluntarily. So marriage garden, marriage resorts also, whatever be their form of organization, they are also liable for audit if required under any law. Anything else, please? Okay, many people have come to know about what is OPD and IPD. That's really nice. Okay, nice. Good night, people. Take care, and let's meet tomorrow to finish off with this chapter and the subject of auditing. Take care, guys. Good night. Bye bye. Ramji. Ramji, are you there? हाँ जी, हाँ जी, हाँ जी, concluded.